guys, today's video is going to be on what I think currently are at least my favorite bench pressing accessory movements. And as a precursor to this, I just want to say that I was stagnant at around the same weight for what seemed to be about a year and a half at one point. Around 2 years ago, I had benched touch and go 405. Granted, it was pretty sloppy looking, and I had refused to change really what I was doing at the time, pretty much just focusing on bench press alone and not doing any other sort of accessory work. And as a result, I had stayed at pretty much the same place for a long time, not really addressing the weaknesses that I needed to address. So some of these are going to help address some weaknesses some people might be having. And now, I guess around 6 months ago, I had finally hit the same weight I previously hit, around 400 to the 405 range for a pause single. So some progression, but obviously not a big increase. And then recently, in the past 6 to 7 months, now I'm pretty much consistently on a weekly basis benching 4 reps, fairly close to my previous max that I had gotten this past July or August or whatever it was. Pretty much what I'm going to be going over is the exercises that I think have been the most beneficial for bringing my bench up from the low to mid 300s into the low to hopefully mid 400s within the next month or two. So I want to start off by saying, and I won't really count this one as one of them just because this is the way I always do it, but for those of you who aren't, you need to start pausing your bench presses. It'll just help create a little bit more explosiveness off the chest. Just being able to control that weight and drive it from a point where the weight's pretty much just dead there is going to help your explosiveness dramatically. So just think about it from this perspective. If you're somebody who just takes the weight off and just kind of brings it down to your chest, lets it bounce, you're pretty much, and it bounces, let's say, even half an inch to an inch off your chest each rep, that's a considerable amount of range of motion that you're not getting the full benefit of having that load on. So in the long run, when you eventually get to a weight that when you bounce it, it's going to come back down a little bit, you're not going to be able to work through it. So start working pauses into your regular routine. The next one is going to be close grip bench press. Now, this isn't something that I've been doing really consistently until the past 6 or 7 months. And to be honest with you, this was I didn't realize how much of a glaring weakness this was for me at that point, because my bench, I thought, had been pretty strong. But in comparison, if you had compared my close grip bench reps wise to my regular grip, at one point, even just a month or two ago, I was struggling to hit a little bit over 300 pounds for sets of 5 doing close grip. Now I'm doing close grip for like 360 for sets of 5s. Just shows you how much, just due to the amount of progression that something like that went up for me, and the fact that I would consider myself an intermediate to experienced lifter. The fact that my numbers have gone up that much just kind of shows you how much further behind that part was lagging for me. So close grip is something I definitely recommend for somebody who might be a little bit more chest dominant. You don't really realize how much some of these parts might be lagging behind until you actually get into a position of working, like, let's say, a longer range of motion, because if you have a closer grip, you're working through a longer range of motion, or until the tension is a little bit more on a muscle group that's a little weaker. You don't really realize it until it's really pushed a little bit. Next is going to be the slingshot bench press, and I know not everybody has access to this type of thing, but I really recommend using the overload work. It's a lot of people prefer using things like boards or the bench blocks for something like this, but I really prefer being able to handle the heavy amount of weight through a full range of motion. It really helps you to develop the kind of feeling that you want of being able to engage the lats when you're at the bottom. The lats aren't necessarily going to help a lot with your actual pressing power or your explosiveness off the chest or anything like that. It's mainly a stability tool to be able to keep your reps a little bit more consistent, which is why I think the slingshot's so useful, as well as like row work. Obviously, you're going to want to make your lats stronger just for that in general. But just being able to work heavier loads through a full range of motion is one thing. And on top of that, being able to handle a little bit more volume. Sometimes you're just beat after your actual working sets of bench press or something along those lines. And it helps to be able to push those boundaries a little bit just by being able to handle that same amount of weight for a couple more sets of even more reps. Just be able to push the volume a little bit, and the slingshot is going to help out with that. Final one, and this is one that I literally just started implementing about a month and a half ago. And originally on my programming, it was having me, this was just started off as a light bench day, just to get used to doing the movement, take a break from a little bit of the heavier load. But these might as well just be called humility presses, because you're going to be humbled with the amount of weight that you're going to be able to move on these. So as somebody who is benching in the low 400s, it feels pretty weird to have the weight feeling as heavy as it does in the high 2 to mid 200s. But essentially, this movement is a Spoto press, and which by itself is pretty difficult, but I add a 5-second pause to doing them. So essentially what a Spoto press is you bring the bar down to about half an inch to an inch above your chest, and you would press from there normally. For me, I like to hold it a little bit. I notice in order to be able to keep it in that position for that length of time, I have to focus on every single bench press cue, and if I mess up one of them, there's going to be a lot of wiggling. So it kind of helps ingrain some of those good habits a little bit better, as well as develop more stability in what you might consider, and for most people, is a sticking point. So just being able to develop that stability, being able to work on those cues, and just being able to build a little bit of isometric strength for some of those reps that might be a little bit grindy. Some people have a lot of trouble fighting their way out of the rep, and because you're holding a weight at there for a longer period of time, you're probably not going to have as much of an issue with it. Honestly, I feel like just adding that in has been a big contributor to what has been adding to all the PRs I've been having lately on bench press. So just a review of this week of training too, as far as bench goes. I had hit a additional rep PR on both close grip and regular bench press, hitting 380 on regular for a set of 5, and on close grip hitting 360 for a set of 5, which each is like a 5 or 10 pound PR for that position. So I'm starting to consistently, if I calculate with the reps, and granted this is always a little bit off because the more reps you have, the more inaccurate it's going to be, but everything's pointing to my bench being around the 440, somewhere between 435 and 444, something like that. So we're going to have to see where that is in probably about 5 weeks or so. So that'll be pretty fun. Obviously, you guys are going to be able to see what type of progression that these accessories are going to be helping me do. I'll be sure to keep you guys updated if I make any other changes to that sort of thing, but I hope you guys have taken something away from this video. In the meantime, like, share, and subscribe, and I'll talk to you guys tomorrow.